Hey everyone, my name is Kurt Frankum, and I wanted to get on here to not necessarily cover a specific general conference talk and how to teach that general conference talk, but maybe a model that you can consider for all you Elders Quorum presidents, Relief Society presidents out there, or maybe you're in the presidency and this is an idea you can share with your presidency that maybe you'll use, because I know that it can be tricky at times, that second hour meeting of Elders Quorum Relief Society, and you're tasked with teaching a general conference talk or talks, and sometimes it's like, well, how do we do this differently, right? I mean, don't we just pick a teacher and assign them a talk and say, teach it, and then they stand in front of rows full of different people, and maybe it turns into a lecture, maybe they struggle with getting participation, and there's all sorts of age-old problems with teaching or frustrations and hurdles. And so I wanted to share with you an approach I have kind of tinkered with and dialed in more and more that's really been effective. I'm currently serving as the Elders Quorum president in my ward, and this is a method that we've come up with. I don't claim I don't get all credit for this idea, as my presidency has shared some ideas as well. But this I've been finding, and I've been doing every time for when we have a typical Elders Quorum meeting, and it would work really for any Elders Quorum, any Relief Society, depending on how your building is, the room you're in, the way that chairs can be set up. You may have to adjust it from there, but I'll just share what I do, and you can apply it to your own experience as you see fit. So essentially, there are three components for an Elders Quorum or second hour meeting that I use. First is we're encouraged in the handbook to have I think it says 5 to 10 minute counseling session, right? And I've done this a variety of ways. That's maybe a topic for another time, but in my Elders Quorum, we get about 35 to 40 elders that show up. We meet in the cultural hall, and so sometimes we'll circle the chairs and have a discussion. I'll bring a few questions or things like that. I'll have a discussion, a council session all together, or we'll break out into groups and do that. And then comes time for the meat of the meeting, where we have the general conference talk focus and teaching and so forth. And so what we typically do with 30 to 40 elders is we'll split up into 4 groups. I found that just for that number and the way that just seems we get about 6 to 9 elders in every group. And I don't know if my math is accurate there, but that seems to be what we get from what we plan on. And so, and then we don't have one, we don't call specific Elders Quorum teachers, but we rotate that responsibility amongst the quorum. And every week we have 4 different facilitators that facilitate that portion. So what I typically do in my presidency is we'll send a text out to, and we keep track of this, of who we have asked and when they've done it, but we may send a text to an elder in the quorum, and this is, let's see, I have it up here so I can reference, but this is what I typically say is, would you be willing to participate this Sunday or this upcoming Elders Quorum meeting? Basically, be ready to lead a discussion in Elders Quorum for general conference talk. And I say, pick any general conference talk, prepare to facilitate a discussion with 6 to 9 elders, and 3, discuss. The discussion will last about 10 to 15 minutes. Now, to be honest, they typically last more like 20 minutes because, essentially we have, by the time everybody gets settled, gets in there from sacrament meeting, we have 50, 45 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. And that discussion portion, we aim for 5 to 10 minutes. It often takes 15 minutes. And then we have the general conference portion, okay? And so in that general conference portion, again, as we ask individuals to participate, we let them pick whatever general conference talk that they want. And that even means general conference talks from before the most recent general conference. And I've most likely 8, 9 times out of 10, the individual will pick from the most recent conference, which is great, right? But oftentimes there's individuals who really have a specific love or connection with one specific talk that maybe was given 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they may pick that, and it really works out great. And so then as we split up into those groups, everybody, the facilitators know who they are, and they start, we have one facilitator in each group. And again, we're in the cultural hall, so it's a little bit easier to spread out, but I could see this absolutely working in a Relief Society room. You can maybe find an additional open classroom in the building if you need to spread out more, but you could easily, circle up into four groups. I'm just thinking of the typical Relief Society room. I know every building's a little different, and it doesn't have to be, 4, it could be 3, whatever works out best with your numbers. You really don't want to get them too big because then you kind of run into the same problem of there's a lot of people are less likely to speak up and participate in that sort of thing. So they have the general conference talk. Now, sure, in a perfect world, you assign the general conference talk and everybody in the class knows about it. Everybody reads it. What parallel universe you live in, but I don't live in that universe. That has rarely happened where people read the talk and become prepared to discuss it. So the fact that they don't know what the talk is really hasn't caused any issue. So typically the facilitator will bring a handful of questions and say, here's this part, that part, the typical general conference talks facilitation. Now what happens here is really simple, but awesome, where those smaller groups, there are individuals who would never, when we're in a larger group, they never speak up. They're either not comfortable or they'd rather just stand back, or or those that dominate the discussion or use the ones raising their hand, where these smaller groups really make a more intimate scenario where individuals will speak up and share and talk about stories. And man, I can't count how many times we've had some elders get choked up about telling a story or share a struggle that they're experiencing in life. And just to have that smaller group, it just feels, there's more support and it's more right there, rather than, nobody wants to cry in front of a room full of people or the entire room. But, it really makes it a more tender experience doing it in those small groups. So like I said, I tell them about 10 to 15 minutes, but they get talking, as and it can easily go for 20, or it could go for 30 if you wanted. But what we typically do is I watch the clock as I'm, obviously participating in one of those small groups. And then about 8 minutes to the end of class, I usually say, all right, let's gather around. I'll maybe share a quick 1-minute message, whether it's related to the conference talk or not. And then I'll ask if anybody has any specific needs or prayer requests that we could be mindful of as we close up. And again, just people are already warmed up from those smaller groups. A lot of people share personal struggles, and we assure people that we'll keep it in the room, those types of things. And it really has built some beautiful unity in our elders quorum, and some connection that I don't think the traditional general conference teaching style would facilitate. So and even in these small groups, I've seen people bring their laptops, their iPads, show clips. There's nothing you can't do in a smaller group that a larger group would be. It could only be done in a larger group. So this is just one model. Again, we start out with that council session, it goes 5 to sometimes 15 minutes. Then we break up into those general conference discussion groups, and that goes for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we wrap up with the last 8 to 10 minutes of that final gathering, kind of that unifying point, and then we ask someone to pray, and we pray. So hopefully that's helpful, and really it facilitates not only more discussion, more people feeling comfortable. It also gives a lot more opportunity for people to teach in that quorum. I'm in a ward where there's a lot of people who need callings or don't have official callings, so for them to participate that way has been awesome. We also are really proactive in trying to rotate in, individuals serving in primary or with the youth. Every few months they may come in and either facilitate a general conference talk or just be part of that discussion.